Hello everybody, and welcome to Ancient Architects. Please subscribe now to get the latest ancient history news and independent research from around the world. Over the past couple of years, I have mentioned the subject of this video a number of times, but I thought it was worth dedicating a whole video to the so-called forced entrance tunnel created by the Caliph Al-Ma'mun, located on the northern face of the Great Pyramid. Today, Egyptologists still run with the idea that this is how the Caliph entered the pyramid. But why would he need to do this when the entrance into the Great Pyramid was known about since at least the Roman times, and even recorded by Strabo? Was the entrance forgotten by the time of the 9th century? Was it hidden from view? If so, how, when, and why? Far from being a crude entrance into the Great Pyramid, I believe that what we see today was in fact the work of the first robbers of the Great Pyramid. It wasn't an entrance, it was an exit, to take something out of the pyramid. But before we go into that hypothesis, let's take a closer look at the official story. In the 9th century, the Arab ruler of Cairo, known as the Caliph Al-Ma'mun, wanted to search the Great Pyramid, and not knowing where the entrance was, he decided to tunnel his way through the north side, armed with vinegar, hammers and chisels, and other somewhat primitive tools. Apparently their work was so vigorous that one stone fell from the ceiling of the ascending corridor inside. The workers could hear it from their crude tunnel, and so they dug in that direction, and for the first time in history, the upper compartments of the Great Pyramid could be accessed. Apparently the Caliph Al-Ma'mun and his men found nothing of any value, and they left the pyramid empty-handed. This is a story that has been retold by historians for many years, but is it more of a fable than an historic event? Was their excavation work so energetic that a block inside the pyramid, a block that had been in place for thousands of years, simply fell to the ground? I would say that this story is highly unlikely, and I would take it all with a pinch of salt. For a start, the Al-Ma'mun tunnel, as it is so often called, is far too accurate, and even if they did hear a stone dropping inside, I still doubt they could tunnel into the structure so accurately to meet up with the ascending passageway. It really is the perfect crude tunnel. From the outside it goes in a straight line, right towards the intersection of the passages, and diagrams show that it seems to bend to the left so to avoid the massive granite plugs. Saying that, and some people have been to the Great Pyramid just to observe this tunnel, and they say there is no bend or left turn at all. There is a secondary tunnel or an expansion that connects the descending and ascending passageways, but by some accounts, the main tunnel is perfectly straight. The Caliph Al-Ma'mun must have been the luckiest man in the world to choose a random spot on the outside of the pyramid, tunnel in a straight line and end up at the ascending passageway, just above the junction with the descending passageway. The place he chose on the northern face was also just below the actual entrance, as seen today by the large chevron blocks. In Al-Ma'mun's day, the pyramid would have still been covered in casing stones, but, as stated, the actual entrance had been known about since at least the Roman times. Strabo describes it in his work as having a movable stone, which may be like the hinged stone entrance of the bent pyramid. There is Latin graffiti inside the subterranean chamber, showing that the Romans did enter the pyramid hundreds of years before Al-Ma'mun. Being the only known entrance into the Great Pyramid, this would surely have been noticeable, would have surely had marks or damage from wear and tear of people opening and closing the movable stone throughout history. Did it have a handle? Was the movable stone now permanently removed? Nobody can know for sure, but I feel that people would have known how to find it, and you'd think that this information would have been known in the days of the Caliph Al-Ma'mun. But if, as we are told, the Caliph Al-Ma'mun had no idea where the main entrance was, then why did he choose to dig his tunnel on the north side, very close to the actual entrance? Why not dig on the eastern side, a side that had a mortuary temple and causeway below? If you had no prior knowledge of the internal layout of the pyramids, whereabouts would you start your tunnel? Some people get around this by highlighting the trial passages, rock-cut tunnels located 87 metres to the east of the Great Pyramid, just north of the causeway. Howard Weiss and John Perring first examined these in the 1840s, and they believe that these passages were actually from an abandoned, long-forgotten pyramid or tomb. The main thinking behind these passages today are that they were a trial run for the Great Pyramid. Petrie called them the test corridors, being an exact copy of the descending passageway, its junction with the ascending corridor, and even including the horizontal passage to the Queen's Chamber. Whether or not this really is the case is still open to debate, because unless there is a vertical shaft still concealed inside the pyramid, at the position where the ascending and descending passageways meet, the trial passages as they are now known are wrong, even though much about them does match the internal layout of the Great Pyramid. But let's give Al-Ma'mun the benefit of the doubt, that he found the trial passages, although there is no evidence that he did, and that he was able to figure out that these were a match for the Great Pyramid's internal layout, which really makes no sense, as Al-Ma'mun hadn't yet been into the pyramid. But if, as some say, he did figure it out, or somebody told him about the trial passages, then yes, he could have used them to decide where to dig to get to the ascending passageway. Some believe this is the case, but to me, this is all a bit far-fetched. Because if Al-Ma'mun did know about the trial passages, why on earth did he tunnel in from the outside? Why not just find the entrance, go inside the descending passageway, measure roughly how far the junction was to the ascending passageway, and then tunnel up and around the granite plug blocks? Well, whoever made the tunnel, whether Al-Ma'mun or somebody before him, I think that this is exactly what they did. And this is why there is a smaller tunnel that connects the two main pyramid passages. But on their way out, they had to create a larger tunnel from this junction all the way to the outside. But why? The answer is clearly to take something out. What it was we can only speculate, and everything from the Ark of the Covenant to the lid of the King's Chamber sarcophagus has been considered. All we know for sure is that the object would have been too large to get out through the original arrangement of passages. The object would have been small enough to get down most of the ascending passageway, but when it starts to narrow and we reach the plug blocks, then there was no way to get the object out. There was only one thing they could do, and create a new tunnel. You could argue that they could have enlarged the first crude tunnel that linked the ascending and descending passageways the way they got in, and taken the object up the remainder of the descending passageway to the outside. But maybe this was just not possible. It would require tricky manoeuvring and then an uphill journey to the outside, in a passageway that has no steps and little room to manoeuvre. Also, you probably couldn't get people around a large and possibly heavy object to carry it out. And, if you dropped it, the object would have ended up at the bottom of the descending passageway, right next to the subterranean chamber, and then there would be no way to get it out of the Great Pyramid. This clearly wasn't an option, but now the accuracy of the crude tunnel is easily explained. They knew roughly where they were, and they knew which direction to tunnel to get out. The tunnelling started on the inside, not the outside, and this explains the large pile of rubble at the base of the descending passageway, as noted by the 19th century and early 20th century antiquarians. If the tunnel started from the outside, rubble would not have been thrown down the descending passageway, it would have been thrown down the side of the pyramid. So, I personally think it is clear and obvious that the so-called Al-Ma'mun tunnel is an exit from the Great Pyramid, purposefully created to take something out. But was it created by Al-Ma'mun's men? Maybe, but highly unlikely. There is no mention of the upper compartments, like the King's Chamber, by Strabo, yet Pliny or Pliny does say, within the largest pyramid is a well, 86 cubits deep, into which water from the river is supposed to have been brought by a channel. As the lower entrance to the well shaft was concealed until the 19th century, then how could Pliny of around 79 AD know there was a well inside the pyramid? He can't be referring to the pit in the subterranean chamber, because this wasn't especially deep until Howard Weiss ordered his men to dig it out. He must be referring to the well shaft, but looking down from its top entrance. There is also written evidence that the Al-Ma'mun tunnel was already there before the Caliph entered the Great Pyramid. In the paper by Michael Cooperson, titled Al-Ma'mun, the Pyramids and the Hieroglyphs, he points out that historian Ibn Mamata reported that excavations were carried out by Al-Ma'mun at great expense at the existing breach. Note the word existing. The Chronicle of Michael the Syrian, who was also there at the time, states, "We noticed a fissure and ascertained it was approximately 50 cubits deep." Evidently, the stone in this place had been solidly packed before being broken by people who wanted to see whether the pyramids were solid. So, if anything, the Caliph Al-Ma'mun simply cleared out this tunnel and used it to enter the pyramid, and by all accounts he found nothing. The Great Pyramid had long been accessed and long been robbed. Whoever robbed the pyramid excavated a tunnel to take out an object of substantial size. Maybe the lid of the so-called sarcophagus, or maybe the contents of this box. Maybe this was all done in ancient times, maybe even the 18th dynasty when the Giza Plateau took centre stage once again. Some also speculate that there was a statue in the niche of the Queen's chamber and this is what was taken out. Whatever the truth, I don't think the Caliph was the first person to access the upper portion of the Great Pyramid since it was closed up, and I do think he left this grand structure empty-handed. I have just brought back my second channel, Space and Planet, which will feature news and research about space and Earth science. Please subscribe now, I have left a link in the description below. Thank you very much for watching this episode of Ancient Architects. If you enjoyed the video, please subscribe to the channel, please like the video, and please leave a comment below. Thank you very much.